Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Going to a local community college to use the computer lab. It was around lunchtime, so the traffic was heavy. Get to the college and the parking lot is full. Have to park in the back and go in through the back door. Get inside. No one at the back reception desk. I figure they're out for lunch. Start walking towards the computer lab, which is at the other side of the college. Notice the hallway is empty. I figure everyone is at the cafeteria. Walk by the cafeteria. Nobody is there. I now notice that it is dead silent inside the college. Walk by the classrooms. They're the kind that have windows so you can see inside them from the hallway and vice versa. Nobody is inside the classrooms. Walk by some windows that overlook the parking lot and road. The parking lot is full. The street has cars on them. At first I think that traffic is backed up, but then I see that all the cars on the road are empty. Start getting weirded out. Check my phone to see if something is going on, but there's no signal. Decide to press on to the computer lab. I had to walk through that entire college and I didn't encounter or see anyone. Make it to the computer lab. As soon as I touch the doorknob, there's sound all around me. Normal college sounds, people talking and walking, doors opening and closing, etc. It actually made me jump from how sudden the sound came. Look back where I had just walked from and there's people walking up and down the hallway. The classrooms have people in them now. Walk into the computer lab. The teacher tells me I'm late and that my spot for the computer is now being used. Look at the clock and I somehow have lost 40+ minutes. It took me less than 5 minutes to walk to the computer lab. Too dumbstruck to say anything and just go home. It's been a few years since this has happened and I still don't know what to make of it. I don't use drugs of any kind and I wasn't sick.
Here's something that's been bothering me for a bit. Just wanted to share. Be me, college freshman. Moved to a decently rural part of the country. Near the coast but old growth forests for hours around. A friend, Jay, wanted to check out the dunes for her birthday. Had an uneventful dinner and headed out. A road to the beach went through miles of farmland and ended on these rolling sand dunes. Few farmhouses along the way, but otherwise pretty far from town. At least it was a full moon, so there was a good amount of light. On the drive out, a few of my friends claimed they saw movement in the bushes next to the road. I didn't think anything of it. Figured it was us city slickers getting spooked by animals. We ended up at the end of the road in a parking lot. It was just us and an RV there, since it was pretty late at night. Pick related. We were parked in the back near the bushes. The RV was up front. It's a pretty popular place during the day. As we were getting out, another friend, S, saw something scurry out from the bushes and along the dune. It was following the ridge out towards the RV. She pulls out her flashlight and tries to get a good view of it. Just before she sees it though, a hippie-looking dude shouts to us from the RV.
"Don't worry, I'm a human."
Now, I don't remember hearing him getting out of the car. Maybe I was just preoccupied. I dunno. It was like he was just there all of a sudden. None of us are vibing with that very specific comment though. And all eyes were on him. He just shoots the shit for a minute. Talks about how he was working at a winery down south. And since it's one of our birthdays, he could give us a bottle. We all decline and power walk past him. Over the dunes towards the beach. All of us started chatting as we got closer to the water. About how weird the dude was. Then homework, usual stuff like that. When we get over the last dune though, we all saw what looked like a huge rock right at the water's edge. Immediately, I felt this wave of dread wash over me. The rock shouldn't have been there. I was at that same beach a few weeks ago, and there was nothing like this rock for miles. We all fell dead silent and just stared at the thing, not moving any closer. J and S both say they saw something on top of the rock. It looked like a human, but without a neck. Like its chin just went all the way down to its chest. I didn't see it, for what it's worth. That's just pure secondhand info. After what felt like way too long. S whispered at us to get back to the car and not turn our backs to the thing until we got over the dune. We just backed up, and as soon as we were out of eyesight of the rock, we bolted. It was just a mad dash to the car. Complete panic. Apparently Jay fell over and S had to pick her up. It was her car too. so that could have been a bummer. Also, apparently, I broke off from the group and was running away from the parking lot. To this day, I swear I don't remember that happening. But I never mentioned that to anyone. Not sure what they'd think. When we got to the parking lot, the RV was completely gone. In the total 5 minutes we were gone, the dude must have driven off. Or something. I really can't say. Nobody cared though. And we just packed ourselves in the car and peeled out of there. On the way back, we were mostly quiet. However, 2 times we saw somebody on the side of the road. I never saw their faces, but they were walking towards the beach, late at night, miles from civilization. It wasn't until we got back to town that we could really breathe again. When we got back to the dorms, we all piled into S's room. She sprinkled some salt around the windows and doors, and said some prayers. The rest of us were standing around and talking, making sure we all saw the same thing. After a few hours, we all shuffled to our rooms and passed the fuck out. It was a pretty weird weekend after that. Some other friends found bloody women's clothing in the woods while hiking, and the campus had a blackout the night after that. But nothing that serious really has happened since. Other minor stuff happened while I was still up there. I still consider myself a skeptic. Mostly, but man, I've been cautious about that kind of stuff since.
Be me, mid-20s. I live alone in what used to be my grandparents' house before they moved away. I've been living here for a few months. I really enjoy listening to heavy metal music and the like. I instinctively always get up and dance, thrash around, headbang to really good riffs and grooves. One night I'm moving around to a song when I see it for a brief second. At the door frame. A roundish head-shaped object at around head level, at the edge of the doorless door frame going into a storage room/laundry room. Pic related, a really shitty drawing of what I thought I saw. It was blurry and not a lot of details, probably because I was moving around like an artistic spaz. Because I'm thrashing around, I don't really get a good chance to stop and look by. Literally a second passes and I look back. It's fucking gone. Double take. Go and investigate. The storage room/laundry has no windows or other ways out, and my computer's set up in a way that if somebody went in there I would have definitely saw them. Make sure there's literally nothing at head level that I could have mistook for that head-shaped thing, like a box or a shadow of the wall. Nothing. Don't get easily paranoid, so I brush it off as maybe my long hair getting in the way and my mind playing tricks. About a month has passed, I completely forget about that incident. I'm doing laundry in that storage room. Behind me would be the doorframe, leading to my computer area/nerd shit where I generally listen to music and shit post on the internet. And on my computer speakers I'm blasting music. As I'm done doing laundry I quickly turn around, half dancing to my music. See the fucking object again. But this time I'm not thrashing around, so I actually get a good look for what might be a second or two. It's very clearly a head, I think, with facial features and longish hair. But the facial features are fucked up, like a reversed bulge effect from paint. Flight response. Oh shit, and turn my head away. Look back again. It's gone.
Nothing too special, but my old house has had tons of weird events. Be me, about 10 years old. The family just moved into a renovated 110-year-old house. Belonged to the family but was basically abandoned for 40 years before my parents fixed it up. New to me house, so I'm scared to sleep alone. My 15-year-old sister has always been sensitive and she is a bit scared too. She volunteers to sleep in my room with me for a few months until we get used to the house. About my sister, she had previously seen weird phenomena such as a ghost hand wearing a ring appearing under my parents' bed. She heard demonic-sounding voices telling her that they would destroy our family. She heard the voice of a little girl at the foot of her bed. I have no younger sisters. Hear lots of odd noises but could easily discount them as the house settling, etc. We would turn on the attic fan when the temperature allows because we have no air conditioner in our room and the noise covers up the sounds at night. One night I'm awoken suddenly out of a dead sleep by my sister screaming and crying. Apparently something was sitting on her. Said she wasn't paralyzed because she tries to push it off. But she doesn't want it to fall on me. One side of the bed was against the wall, so she tried to push it over me to the floor. We turn on the light, of course there's nothing there, and my dad comes in and desperately tries to come up with an excuse to explain it that will comfort us. Doesn't work, we sleep on the floor of our parents' room. This happened several times. Something freaky would happen and we'd go to sleep in my parents' floor at like 3 a.m. Fast forward to a few years later. Be me, 12 or 13. One night there's a random power outage, the whole neighborhood as far as we can see. My mom scrambles in the pitch black to find the candles and oil lantern. Suddenly both of my sisters start freaking out. They claim that they can see blacker than black shadows of bats, cats, and other animals around the house. The shadow creatures became a recurring thing. We had no pets of any kind in the house, and the shadows were often of non-animal shapes anyway. My mom saw shadow men multiple times, even described the Hat Man trope despite having never heard of it before. Fast forward to my teenage years. Be me, 16. Anything witchy strictly verboten in our house. Parents had even banned Zelda on NES when we were younger because of magic. Nevertheless, I'm fascinated by paranormal stuff and stay up late reading all about ghosts, UFOs, conspiracies. The usual stuff that was talked about on a TS in 2004. Despite this and being awake alone most nights, I rarely experience anything I can't explain away pretty easily. Become a bit of a skeptic just to make myself less uneasy despite consuming all this paranormal content. My oldest sister is married and has moved out by this time. We're preparing to go on a family vacation, so she and my brother-in-law are sleeping in the living room. Brother-in-law is on the floor in front of the sofa. I'm sitting at the computer in the next room, not reading anything spooky or X-related that I recall. My brother-in-law appears at the peripheral of my vision, kind of freaks me out because I wasn't expecting it. He's giving me a weird look, asks me if I'm okay. I say sure and ask what's up. He says he wakes up staring at the ceiling and sees a flash of bright white light which glides along the top of the ceiling and floats over my head in my chair. Kind of freaked but skeptical me thinks maybe he dreamed it or something. Over the next few years, 3 different people independently report a similar phenomenon while sleeping on or in front of the sofa. Dad wakes up with a bright white light over top of him, jumps up and yells loud enough to wake the whole house. Sister wakes up, sees the bright white light jump into her chest, and she jumps up crying while trying to brush off whatever it was, thinking it was still on her. 2006, worried about Tropical Storm Ernesto. My sister's family is worried about flooding near her house, so she comes to stay with us. During the power outage that night, 2 of my nephews, again sleeping on the floor in front of the sofa, claim to see more blacker than black shadows of people walking around the house while everyone is asleep. Again 2006-ish. About 2 a.m. I'm on the computer listening to some music when I hear a horrendous crash come from the kitchen. Frozen, I wait and listen for a solid 10 to 15 minutes, but I don't hear anything else. Steel myself and walk into the kitchen wielding a coffee mug like I'm about to fight a dragon. The telephone has been ripped off the wall and is laying in the middle of the floor 5 or 6 feet away. The phone has been there for 10 plus years and has never been lost to our knowledge. Had switched to a wireless phone a few years before anyway, so it was rarely used. The mount is completely broken. Freaking the fuck out, go to my room and hug my .22 LR rifle with the lights on until my dad gets up at 5:30 a.m. That house is weird. I still hear weird noises when I'm there, but I usually just discount them as the house settling or boards creaking just from age. Periodically I'll hear a single light knock at the door at all times of day. Obviously nothing or no one is there when we check. Still happens multiple times a day and with multiple witnesses. My grandfather used to tease me by telling me that my great-great-grandfather had hung himself in my bedroom closet. Of course he was just messing with me as they didn't even live in the house when he died. Still, once in a rare while the mood of the house shifts on a dime, so to speak, and it's like it comes alive with odd noises and corner of the eye kind of stuff for no apparent reason.
Friend's sister moves into the house with her boyfriend and her son. This big old 3-story Victorian place. Really cool, great place, it's just in a shitty area and needs a lot done to it. But she gets it cheap because of that. Me and my friend help out with renovations and things when we can. One day she calls a friend and asks if he and I could go around that night. We drop by. A lot of the renovations are done now and they stay there most of the time. She's sitting at the table with her boyfriend. Has these like handmade, I suppose you would call them, dolls in front of her. She looks at me and asks what I think of them. Yeah, pretty cool, you making them for Etsy or something. Explains that she found them hidden in the walls and under the floorboards in some of the rooms. There's about 8 of them. Take a closer look. They're the weirdest little things, only small, about 5 or 6 inches. but they have real human hair on them, crude as fuck faces, and the body is made of some kind of bones and twigs. Clothes are all the same. A page from the Bible with a piece of string tied around the waist and a bird feather between the string and the page. She knows I like X shit, presses me for what they are. Have absolutely no idea. Try to assure her they're nothing to worry about regardless. No-win situation. I tell her to put them back where they were, but she's worried in case they're bringing evil spirits in. Tell her to put them in the bin and she's worried they might be for keeping evil spirits out. Notice son isn't around. He's staying with boyfriend's parents. Why? He keeps saying he's seen a black man in the house. Bit peculiar, there really aren't that many black people around here. Explains he means a walking shadow. I haven't been back since and it was about 5 years ago. They were odd little things though. I don't know what she did with them in the end. She's mentioned seeing shadows in the years since, but I think she's grown apathetic to it. Really wish I got pics.
Uncle got recruited out of Harvard into a think tank and prior to that worked logistics for North Atlantic Treaty Organization during the Cold War, eventually reaching Major General rank after 50 years of service. Retired and his 50 years of silence was finally lifted. Also possible ties with MI6 as I have distinct memories of him going to Buckingham Palace to be knighted when I was younger. Feel free to think that's a LARP. I know it likely sounds ridiculous to the average person. He told my father we're dealing with interdimensional entities and got progressively different over time to the point where he seems like a completely different man today. He one day threatened to kill my dad and told him they would never find his body. My dad swears when he said that his whole irises turned black and it looked like there were parasite-like worms moving around. We stopped talking to him after that, going on 6 years now. They also really wanted to take me to some debutante balls and initiate me when I came of age, but my dad forbid it. He wouldn't tell me why, but I have a feeling my family has a lot of secrets that are likely deadly for me to fully know.
I want to know more. Do you have any more stories about your uncle? Is that all he said about the entities? Different in what kinds of ways?
The last time I saw him face to face was when I was 12. He looked me up and down at a dinner party and told my dad to bring her back to me when she can hold a wine glass. He never could have kids, so my dad said I was a painful reminder. I later found out he was associated with a lot of Minecraft elite types, so that may have been him trying to protect me as well. Hard to really say. There is one odd story that kinda sticks out though, that may be X-related. My other uncle is involved in the music industry and kept trying to groom me for a record label when he found out I could sing. I pushed back and said no. I was the only child between 3 brothers, so they took me not participating in the family military and entertainment legacy roles very seriously. 3 years later, a 15-year-old girl who looked identical to me showed up on our doorstep claiming to be my music industry uncle's daughter, who just so happened to be a struggling singer. Her voice is even identical to mine as well. They immediately groomed her, and she went to the Grammys her debut year. Didn't get very far, however, as she was a clear industry plant with New World Order messaging in her songs. That's all my father told me. I've learned over the years, though, that my dad withholds a lot to protect me as best as he can. I only have second-hand accounts from my dad, but it started with visual manifestations, strange black veins down his neck and face, grotesque boils on his back, then a development of very psychopathic behavior, almost animalistic. I guess it was common for these groups to hire working girls when on business trips, so he just would go through a new woman each day while my aunt simply learned to ignore it. He became more greedy and degenerate from there, like he was borderline possessed or something. Prior to all that, he was a very smart, well-mannered, kind man.
Not specifically X, but my friend is dead now, so fuck it. I'll share what he told me. He had a wealthy grandfather in aerospace whose company had contracts with the likes of Lockheed and Boeing. His elderly grandfather started making these very dangerous trips to places like Libya, and would only tell him it was for business. This was after Gaddafi was taken out too, so the place was extremely dangerous, and he would hire mercs to accompany him. One time he went to the Middle East on business, and my friend got an urgent call from one of the mercs that he had to rush his grandfather to the hospital. Apparently he very suddenly became ill in his hotel room, and the merc just happened to go and check on him before dinner and found him puking and unable to stand. The doctors wouldn't do anything until they were sure of payment, and this guy basically told my friend they needed to bug the fuck out or he was gonna die. My friend had to charter a private medical flight to get him back, and at this point the government became involved. Once he was back, they were all basically debriefed. Some men in black motherfuckers sat him down to get all the details of what happened, but my friend was mostly in the dark. They assured him they were on his side. I remember telling him to ask who was on the other side then. Pic related is a drawing of a top-secret plane he saw once in a Lockheed hangar. Turns out his grandfather was likely poisoned, and it became a very hush government matter. His grandfather lived, and from then on they all had a detail assigned to them to watch their backs. When my friend went for a job at one of these companies, they did a background check on him. The report they had on him had every single account name, number, and password of his, and they were not shy about letting him know it. He told me that they'd likely be looking into his close friends as well, and if I'm ever approached, to just say nothing. Luckily that never happened, but I'm pretty sure they must have looked at me because he told me things he wasn't supposed to. His grandfather was a Freemason, and not all of his business was above board. This is likely how he got recruited to do shady government shit. I assured my friend that guys like his proud nationalist grandpa often believe they are doing a civic duty. Who knows though? He insulated my friend from a lot of it, luckily. Once he told me without actually telling me that some charter helicopter company in Texas was engaged in some extremely illegal and shady shit too. He was actually afraid to tell me this, but hinted it was something about transporting people illegally. He was the only friend I could really talk X-tier stuff with and just be my schizo self around. I really miss him. Also, hi Glowies. Tried to make it vague. Please do not harass me.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.